Hello there, everyone. My name is Jonah Phillips. And what you're looking at is a book I wrote back in 2022 called Darwin of the United States, Christopher Columbus and the Evolution of America on my Substack page, which is ChristopherColumbusAfricanus.substack.com. In this book, I compare Christopher Columbus to Charles Darwin, and I prove that he was like Charles Darwin, period. I show that Christopher Columbus paved the way for the United States with his 4 voyages, just like Darwin paved the way for modern biology with his voyage to the Galapagos Islands and his development of the theory of evolution. More importantly, I show how Christopher Columbus has been horribly maligned, just like Charles Darwin. I show how his words and actions have been deliberately misrepresented by both people on the right, the unpatriotic right, people like Brian Kaplan, that's Caplan, and first name Bryan, who's a member of the Acton Institute, that's Acton, and Lord Acton, who he's named after, was a Confederacy apologist. And then, of course, Howard Zinn, or Zinn, who wrote the ludicrously titled book, A People's History of the United States. I say ludicrous because Howard Zinn, who I prefer to call Hate America Howie, portrayed the American people as idiots who are constantly duped by the establishment, find out, and then get duped again. I show how Howard Zinn, and I'm not the first one to do this, twisted Christopher Columbus's words out of context to make it seem as though he was a slaver and genocidal and racist and all this stuff when he was nothing of the sort. I expose other liars about Columbus, like Eric Kasem of the Imagine Institute, which hasn't been updated in a while, and hope the organization has failed. And Michael Ord, that's Oard, who refuses to condemn black supremacy and anti-Semitism for people like Nick Cannon, who promote melanin theory and claim that Jews are not really Jews, that black people are real Jews, that European Jews especially are fakes, because he claims that whites will speak against racism, which is a lie. Whites have spoken out against racism, maybe not enough for them to take action, but they have speaking out against it. And he also supports the cop killer Mumia Abu Jamal and Leonard Peltier. Also call it Dylan Matthews of Vox.com, who, along with Eric Kasem, distorts the Juana de la Torres letter to make it seem as if Christopher Columbus is supporting sex slavery of children when actually he's opposing it and condemning it. I cite real historians, not the fake historian Howard Zinn. People like Mary Grabar, that's Grabar, Carol Delaney, Robert Royal, Raphael Ortiz, and Raphael is spelled Rafael Ortiz. He's the creator of ChristopherColumbusTheHero.com, a blog where he uses primary sources and real historians just like myself to show that Columbus deserves a holiday, that he was a defender, not an oppressor of American Indians. And also cite Robert Royal, Joseph Schaffetta, that's Scaffeta, Richard D. Giacomo, that's Digiacomo, and Robert Royal, who debunked lies about Christopher Columbus all the way back in 1992. In his books 1492 and all that, and then Columbus on Trial, which you can find on Amazon.com. And Raphael Ortiz's books can be found on Amazon too, along with his website. I show, again using evidence, what Christopher Columbus actually looked like too, contrary to many of the stylistic pictures of him. I explain why Amerigo Vespucci had America named after him, namely because he realized and accepted, unlike Columbus, that this wasn't India, this was an entirely new land, which Columbus wouldn't accept. I explain how Columbus did discover America, even though he wasn't the first one here, because he revealed its existence to the denizens of Eurasia, which led to international exchange and contact. I expose the hypocrisy of what I call Colombophobes, that is, people who bash Christopher Columbus and promote hatred of him with no evidence, and in fact, by distorting evidence. For example, Noam Chomsky, a notorious genocide denier, liar, propagandist, and useful idiot for tyranny and terrorist sympathizer, after defending Hezbollah and its leader Hassan Nasrallah, Hamas, the Holocaust denier Robert Farson, and he endorsed a book written by Ed Herman and David Peterson denying the Rwanda genocide, as well as John Stone's book, denying the genocide in Kosovo. He had the gall to call Christopher Columbus a genocidal monster and a mass murderer and one of the main specialists of genocide. And he also took a picture smiling next to Fidel Castro, the butcher of Cuba. I talk about how those who want to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day but not Columbus Day are hypocrites, because Indigenous people committed every single crime Columbus is accused of: genocide, rape, slavery, and even ones he wasn't, like cannibalism. And I talk about how experts have admitted recently that Columbus was right about cannibalism, that he did not invent stories of cannibalism like many hacks claim. And the ones who were responsible for the most violence, the three worst indigenous tribes, were the Mayans, the Incans, and the Aztecs, the last group which slaughtered 80,000 in 4 days. The best part of this book is how I talk about Christopher Columbus may have been Jewish. I'll discuss several pieces of evidence for this, like the fact that Columbus obscured deliberately his background, which would have been necessary if he was a Jew, because Jews, especially conversos, that is, those who converted to Christianity or Catholicism, because, Spain was still Catholic, Protestantism hadn't taken hold there yet. And in fact, it remains mostly Catholic today. That would have been absolutely necessary. And also talk about how Columbus was given funds for his voyage by Jewish property after Jews were forced by the Spanish sovereigns, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, to leave the country, but none of them were mad at Columbus. In fact, many of them willingly agreed to sponsor his trip. I expose also how Columbus was not a slaver, how all the people he took captive were prisoners of war that attacked him first, either Arawak, Taino, or Carib. How he was only ordered to enslave, and again I use that word loosely, violent tribes by King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, not any peaceful Indians. I'll talk about how he adopted a native boy, his second son, Ferdinand, who wrote a book about him that's more accurate than the ones that demonize him. And I talk about how, he did not cut off hands or hunt natives with dogs or throw their babies from mother's arms or force them to dig impossible quotas. That was his successor, Nicolas de Ovando. I'll talk about how Columbus actually cut the tribute in half because Guacanagri, the son of the native boy he adopted, who was a cacique or chief, told him that everyone in Hispaniola together couldn't gather that amount. The only punishment that Columbus ordered for those who wouldn't dig for gold since he was governor was mild, meaning imprisonment, not torture or murder. And yes, there was gold, contrary to what liar Adam Conman Game Over, or Adam Conover, like it's actually called, Adam Ruins Everything, claims in his stupid video. Speaking of Adam Conover and his show, which should be called Adam Lies About Everything, oftentimes Adam's own sources contradict his own statements, like the same source that he cites to say Columbus thought the world was shaped like a pear with a breast teat at the end of it, shows that no, he said he thought it was shaped like a pear or a woman's breast with the protrusion at the end of it. Adam is very dishonest, and you should always be wary of people like him who claim to be telling the truth, because they're really interested in doing is pushing an agenda. Other hypocrisy I talk about in this book is how Vox.com, while bashing Christopher Columbus and taking him out of context, praises the Black Panther Party, which tortured Alex Rackley and Betty Van Patter to death, raped women, extorted grocers and store owners for food and money when they couldn't get enough donations, deliberately instigated conflicts with the police, like what Eldridge Cleaver did with the Oakland police. And they also supported mass murdering communist dictators. The attacks on Christopher Columbus have nothing to do with any of his supposed crimes. They're about delegitimizing America, portraying America as evil from the very beginning, so that unpatriotic rightists who want there to be no state or a minimal state, and then radical leftists who want a communist and socialist state, can have their revolution. They need to destroy the idea that America was ever a good place. I also call for it, I'm urging you all to call for it too, Anno Colombiano. That's ANNO COLOMBIANO, which means Columbus year. Every day in America should be Columbus Day. And if the Republican Party and Donald Trump, who have asked repeatedly, mind you, I've contacted Trump, contacted Kevin McCarthy and Ronna McDaniel, who previously led the Republican National Convention, to push legislation to make this happen, yet they haven't done so, then this would be a major victory against the unpatriotic forces in this country. And it would galvanize people to defend America and its legacy and legitimacy. So please urge them to do this. And there's something else too. I criticize people and organizations in this book who have let for years anti-Columbus propaganda go unchallenged. And on my blog, yes, I have a blog on Getter, that's GETTR.com, on Instagram, and on Facebook. The one on Facebook is called Philip Jones. It has a picture of the pink dragon Serendipity on it. My Getter one has Columbus raising a sword on the beach while the small boat in distance is behind him, and the beach is light brown, and it's called Columbus Christmas on it. My Instagram one is called Rabbuck, that is RABBUCK 17, has a picture of a Siberian tiger walking through the snow, really a drawing of it. That you can check out, where I discuss other truths about Columbus. I also talk in this book about how Russell Means and the American Indian Movement, who destroyed a Minnesota Columbus statue, engaged in similar crimes, like a Wounded Knee, when they burned down every building, stole a girl's pony, and never returned it, held people at gunpoint, destroyed the store of the Gildersleeves, which was the only trading post for miles, and murdered Anna Mae Aquash and Ray Robinson Jr. Check it out, and please spread the truth. Happy Columbus Day, everyone, and Anno Colombiano, hopefully soon, period.